Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Welcome to the Fort Worth 148 podcast. I am Billy Hamilton, past master and current Tyler for Fort Worth 148.
My name is Evve Kuykendall, and I am the senior deacon for Fort Worth 148.
I am Jeremy Gwinn. I am the junior warden for Fort Worth.
I'm Brandy Patton. I'm the sitting secretary for Fort Worth 148.
And I'm Gabriel Jagush, and I am sitting worshipful master of Fort Worth Lodge. So, it's been a long time since we've released an episode, and that's okay. Sometimes we all need a break, but we've had a little bit of a hiatus, and now we're going to start getting back into the swing of things. Guys, how have you all been doing?
It's interesting that we've, so it's been long enough we've all changed offices, and it wasn't like recently, it's been a couple of months.
Yeah.
And it still feels weird to say past master. I'm getting used to it. So.
Indeed.
People tell me I'm master of the lodge, and I'm like, really? Yeah. Are you sure?
How did this happen?
Yeah.
I don't feel like master of the lodge.
Things sure have changed, though. I mean, it wasn't like this last year.
We're actually meeting in a room together. It's crazy.
No, we're not going to go there, though. So.
Yeah.
But we're sufficiently masked, and we have hand sanitizer handy, so
And it smells fabulous, by the way.
no judgment.
We have ways to take care of the virus here, I guess. I don't know. We're all doomed, guys. We're all doomed. We're in a tiny room.
I'm actually in a MOP 3, outfit.
Yeah, I am actually currently wrapped head to toe in sarin wrap, and that's kind of what we're going for here. That's how I'm protecting myself.
Billy is officially Darth Vader.
Yeah. So
That's just my helmet.
Jeremy's got a real prop helmet, Vader helmet. It's awesome.
Cast from the original molds.
So today we're going to do a Quarrymen's Roundtable, which is a format we've done in the past that we've enjoyed a lot. Basically, we're going to read some discussion questions, which is a portion from a standard episode, but then the whole episode is going to be discussion questions. We have a lot of fun. It sounds like a lot of the listeners have a lot of fun with it, and so we hope that y'all enjoy this. Before we get started with the Quarrymen's Roundtable, we're going to go around the table and say how many years of being a Master Mason that we have. Hopefully this will let y'all kind of get a feel for the amount of experience we have in the fraternity and how that relates to the way we answer certain discussion questions. I don't know if that'll make a difference, but maybe you guys might make a connection that we don't. So I was raised in November 2016, so I'm coming up on 5 years of being a Master Mason. Jeremy, what about you?
I was raised April of 2005, so I'm 15, 16 years, somewhere around there.
Oh my God. I was raised in December of 98. So that is coming up on 23 years.
And I think that makes you a moss bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was 7 years old.
Thank you for that, Gabriel.
And let the record show that Billy just grew 3 more gray hairs after that comment.
What about you, Evie?
I just came up on my 4-year anniversary of being raised.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And I was raised in March, so the youngest here by a lot.
And already a secretary.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Godspeed, my friend.
I think I've done more work in the 6 months than he did in 2 years. Well, it's not a shot because with COVID we didn't do a whole lot. How many?
That's true.
How many good standing certificates did you issue in 2 years?
3, 4?
I've done 6.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's good. You saved me from saying, well, as worshipful master when he was secretary, no comment.
We also did not lose our charter, so thank you.
You did
There is that.
perfect job.
You preserved our charter well.
Preserved our charter.
And I will say, as junior warden, you're doing an excellent job too.
Oh, well, thank you.
And as Tyler, holy cow, couldn't ask for a better Tyler.
Yes.
Yeah.
You definitely have that
You
door
stay
time.
out.
You
You stay
tile that
outside
door.
in a wonderful way.
And now I'm snoozing, so I'm gonna stock with the accolades.
You tile that door. You're out there.
Actually, and the great thing about it is while I'm out there, I'm actually working on stuff. So I bring my laptop, and I actually this last time I was working on a talk that I had to give on Thursday, so it works out for me as well. And hopefully, we'll actually have some EAs and fellow crafts so I can have people to teach.
Yeah,
We have an EA.
and we
But he wasn't
have a
there.
brand new EA.
So we do now, yeah.
He's about to start working nights apparently though. We'll see.
Okay, well, we'll figure that one out.
Yeah.
We'll work with them.
It works
So-
with Will's because their schedules rotate. So
Yeah. So, Billy, you said you had a discussion question from your own personal experience recently. Normally, we pull them from online, but Billy's got a juicy one from this past weekend.
Actually, no, it was last night.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
tell us about it and what your question is.
Okay, so if we're going to kick off with this, so last night I went to a significant event for a Masonic friend of mine in a neighboring state. So I'm not going to really discuss too much because depending on where this conversation goes, I've known this brother for 25 years, and he brought a young man up to me. He said, Brother Hamilton, can you explain Freemasonry to my young friend here because he's interested in joining? And I get into, it's, the fraternity means a lot of things. You are given some tools to help become a better person. You're introduced, but the real benefit is being introduced to brethren who can help bring you up, right? People of a like mind. So the problem is this young man immediately went into what he knew about the Illuminati and lizard people to the point to where the Illuminati are replacing people with clones and turning them into lizard people. And so right off the bat, and all sorts of red flags. And afterwards, my friend, who I respect greatly, said, so what do you think? He's a little into the conspiracy theories, but I think he'll make a good Mason if we can kind of get past all that. And my concerns, well, I guess my question before I get into it is, my question is, when you talk to someone who's interested in Freemasonry and you start getting these red flags, and more specifically, if they're not from your lodge, do you feel obligated to tell the other person your concerns? And it's similar to guarding the West Gate, but I guess if it's not your personal lodge, where do you think our duty lies in airing our concerns?
Well, that's a big question. So if you've got a prospective candidate, I definitely think it's our duty to, feel, okay, first of all, is he just sharing what he's read? Or are these actual beliefs? Does he believe that this is actually taking place? But then I feel full on obligated to say, oh, listen, look, man, there's crazy people on the internet. You can't believe everything you read out there. There's a lot of people that just make up fun stuff for the fun sake of telling stories. If it's a brother who believes this stuff and they really, I say, I think you're wrong. I think you're mistaken. Or tell me how you came up with this. Where have you heard this from? Who told you this? Why do you believe this? Or do you really believe this? And start drilling them down, because I believe this. You get a few bad apples that I'm afraid may taint the fraternity. That's kind of my take on it.
Well, I also feel that he's obviously out there. A little bit of education. Talk to the kid. He might be a great person, just confused. And that comes up to me, I'm looking for red flags. Obviously, it's a red flag, but he might just be a goofy kid.
Yeah.
Make sure he's not. Try to make sure they're sane, because we've had that before.
Yeah, like is this guy an immediate security threat? Is my number one question.
Yeah.
Because we've had incidents like that at our lodge, and some recently, right, where we've identified
No names,
right? But actually, the first stated meeting of my year as master so far, we were visited by a gentleman who seemed fairly harmless, but in some aspects did seem like he presented a security threat. And so, we were very polite, and we made sure that he got to eat dinner, and we sent him away with an extra plate. But, we kind of made the executive call. Like, this dude does not seem like he is appropriate to have around in a family environment. And a little bit of that was maybe not straight up like lizard people, but one of the things that he was talking about was the fraternity and employment connections and how people are able to just kind of magically generate job offers from it, basically, and how he wanted to get in because he knew then that he'd be rich and stuff. And it was just like, man, this is weird. And there were other things that I won't go into that identified him as like potentially a threat, so but we had him escorted. But if somebody, if somebody came to our lodge and was like, I want to become part of the lizard people, I'm like, get out. I think I have a little bit less of my tolerance level is, I think, maybe a little bit lesser than y'all's for that, probably, because at that point I'm just like, nope, gone. Do not talk to me again.
And the Lord saith unto Felicia, fare thee well.
Well, I think that there's also this idea that conspiracy theories and people who engage in them aren't necessarily a threat in and of themselves. There are a lot of people out there who hold a lot of things dear, and they believe things that I think are wackadoodle. And just because somebody has like wackadoodle ideas about what the Illuminati is, if there's an Illuminati, are there lizard people? Is the Illuminati, replacing people with lizard people? I mean, those are definitely out there ideas. But I don't think that it necessarily means that someone is unqualified to be a Freemason. I'm trying to take a more measured line here. The other side of that is, I think that it is a matter of conversation with this person to find out, what is this genuinely something you believe? Is this just are you just talking about? Because we've all had conversations about the Illuminati. We've been to esoteric discussions about the Illuminati. We've learned about the historical and the historicity behind the Illuminati, and we've talked about them as an organization and who and what they really were. And we've also all heard the conspiracies, and we all get hits. I don't know how many times you all have gotten hit up on Instagram to be a member of the Illuminati, but I know I've come across at least 2 invites.
Yeah.
To be
Join
part of the
now,
Illuminati.
Seeing Eye, 33rd degree. It's
Yes.
like, what?
Yeah.
Money signs.
Money signs, yes.
Yeah. And so it depends on, I think, the intent of the person, and are they really engaging in this? Are they taking it to a place that suggests a mental health issue? And if it's a mental health issue where they genuinely believe in lizard people, they genuinely believe that Freemasonry and the Illuminati are somehow commingling, or that they are involved, then you're not joining Freemasonry because you want to be part of a fraternity that is for the things that you talked about. You're joining Freemasonry so you can be involved in the lizard people talk and the Illuminati talk. And that's not what we do. Mm-hmm. And that's not what, we don't. Let's just be honest. Anybody who's out there listening to this podcast, we don't. Not that you're going to believe me if you already think that, but we don't. And so I think that's and I would absolutely have no problem recommending to a brother that, you need to take a closer look at this guy, because I think that you're looking at this person through rose-colored glasses. Hmm. Because there's some definite, this is raising, I won't say that they're the red flag factory, but they are definitely real estate adjacent to that factory. They might be the red flag distributor.
Yeah, they might have zoning difficulties with the red flag.
Exactly. So I don't want to dismiss them out of hand, because obviously this brother probably knows this person in a much larger context than we do. Mm-hmm. We're just getting, and you just got this like little glimpse into, and so it's really difficult. But I would still advise my brother to say.
And a big question beyond that is, okay, regardless of whether this guy knows the prospect or not, right? The big question is, okay, hey, you sat there with me, or presumably you have heard this before, while this dude went and talked about the Illuminati and lizard people and the New World Order and all sorts of other stuff. Is this guy a future Mason to you, or is he a future deuce check to you? Because when I hear somebody just kind of hand wave super crazy stuff like that and be like, well, you know, he's a little quirky, but he's all right. To me, that is like he's just a dues check, you know,
That was
because
actually the first thing I thought.
because to me that is it's hand waving a candidate's qualifications
Well-
to just gain a dues paying member.
And I don't think that's the case in this.
In this
spot.
particular case.
Yeah, you
Right.
know, my friend, he's known, you know, the young gentleman for years. And so I think he, you know, he must sincerely, I guess, see some potential in there because he's not the type that it's like, oh, we just need members. But however, that, you know, and this young man, he may have just said, hey, here's someone I can talk about this super weird stuff, and he's not just immediately shutting me down, so.
Yeah.
Maybe part of that's on me too. You know, but, and yes, conspiracy theories are fun and all that, but, I
Love
think,
conspiracy theories. They're so fun.
yeah, but, you know, the conversation seemed to go from, oh, here's what I heard to, it started to feel like, oh, here's what I believe, and, I don't know, it was weird, so, but, yeah, there is that pressure though. I mean, because every time we go to a meeting, we hear we need members, and so there's almost like this push to accept anybody, right? You know, hey, are you breathing? You're alive, let me check your pulse, you're a good fit for my lodge. You know, and that's just not the way it should be.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that,
But on the flip side, I wanna play devil's advocate for a minute.
okay,
So let's say, you know, your friend knows this young man. And yeah, so he started off on the crazy wagon real quick, but, so let's say, I mean, one of the main objectives of our fraternity is to make good men better.
Mhm.
So maybe this is a learning opportunity for the young man, you know, okay, fine, bring him into our fold, and then, you know, educate him, hey, look, dude, that's not real, okay, we're not doing that, people don't do that, we don't turn people into lizards, we're not cloning folks, you know, and let me show you that, hey, there's normal world and there's the internet world, and, you know, bring him up to our level where he can realize that, wow, I sounded like a crazy person when I was younger.
But to devil's advocate, your devil's advocate. The one who says that has to happen within the context of masonry. We can bring him up to our level without letting him become a mason, and then if we bring him up to that level, then we can make him a mason. And then two, I don't know that such a candidate could genuinely participate in the entered apprentice degree for reasons that are explained in the entered apprentice catechism, which I won't give verbatim, but I'll summarize as he has to be sincere in his intentions. And so we think about a couple of the EA Q&A questions and answers, and a guy has to be sincere in the journey that he's setting out on. And if he's like all about the lizard people and stuff, and that's why he's interested in joining, he may be sincere in that particular intent, but he's not sincere in becoming a mason.
well, let me clarify though, it was not like, oh, I wanna be one of these people, I wanna be one of these secret rulers of the world, it was more of a concern of, you know, hey, this is what I understand is happening, and that's why I have hesitations about it.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't like,
Well,
I
so
wanna
that's-
be, you know,
so-
sign me up for the lizard stuff, you know, it was, more
and
like.
see, that added context makes it a lot less troublesome for me,
Okay,
right? Because it's like, oh, hey, you're worried that you might get involved in this if you become a mason. Oh, no, like, we're not here to do that.
no, this is a lizard-free environment.
Well, I'm gonna say that, I'm gonna like take the other side of that, that almost concerns me more, because he's concerned that it might be a real thing.
Oh, I love it.
And so the fact that he thinks that this might be a real thing that we're involved in, that Freemasonry is involved in making people into lizard people, that's a greater concern to me about his mental health than if he just thinks a conspiracy, because he's genuinely voicing a concern about the fraternity and links to the Illuminati and links then to lizard people and then links to cloning lizard people to make more. I mean, I'm gonna restate that he is the red flag factory. He is officially a red flag factory for me, and that's not to say that he can't overcome those concerns, but I would definitely be like, dude, I think you're looking at this guy through way rose-colored glasses, and you need to take a serious step back and ask yourself, because once we initiate someone, it is really difficult to take them outside of Freemason. They are going to, for a very long time, whether we want to or not, they are going to be representative of our fraternity. And if they are out there talking about Freemasonry and those conspiracy theories, again, I totally love people who are involved in, who believe in conspiracy theories, or because I love engaging in them too. I tend to take a more logical approach to them. That usually leaves me with yeah, that's not very likely.
Yeah.
But the fact that this guy is so dedicated to that, it is troublesome. But again, context matters. Maybe his lodge is okay with that. Maybe that's something that they can just wave their hands and be kind of like, that's one aspect of his personality, but the rest of his demeanor is Freemason oriented. He's a good person. He's into philanthropy. He's into being a better person. He's into learning. He's into sharing and becoming a better person. There's a much bigger, broader person than just a conspiracy theory. So.
And maybe I'm a little sensitive to this because, I work at the, Grand Lodge Library Museum. We had a young gentleman who came in, and he seemed, clean cut, nice, he seemed like a normal looking person. And he came in, and he had these weird tics, when he would talk to me, and he said, oh, well, I have Tourette's, and it causes me to make, motions and stuff like that. And so, okay, so that's a plausible explanation. Some of the questions were a little weird, and that was his first visit. It's like we sent him on his way, fair enough, a little weird, but, nothing to cause concern. Then the second time he came in, he was a little bit more concerning, right? He would say stuff like, oh, this place would make me a lot of money while talking around the Grand Lodge. It's like, what are you expecting to get out of Freemasonry? Because he was interested in becoming a Freemason. And again, more red flags on the second visit. The third time, it was weird because he came in and he was just you could tell he was on edge. And he started going up to some of the female employees and saying, I see it in your eyes, you're a victim too. And at that point, it's like, hey man, you gotta go, and
do not come back.
We're a public library museum, but we still have the option to ask you not to come back.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that does touch on something that I've heard a lot from people in my travels. It's like, oh, you're a Mason, and oh, you get all these benefits and stuff, and people think that it's I don't know where they're getting it from, but I don't know if it even exists. But they think that oh well, you give the secret handshake and man, doors just open for you. I'm like, no. I mean, I have someone in my life who thought that we have to give each other carte blanche for everything. Like I get pulled over for speeding with a dead body in my trunk. Give the cop the secret handshake and he's gonna let me go. Like, no, actually it's the other way around. They're gonna hold me to a much higher standard, and we have to call each other out. And this is, we don't just get to slide by with anything that we want. So there's a big misconception out there that,
and I won't identify any brothers involved in the conversation because it did involve a speeding ticket, but I was listening to a brother tell a story about how he got pulled over, and he had a square and compasses on the back of his car, and the trooper that pulled him over says, I see you're a Mason. And he goes, yes I am. He's like, I'm a Mason too. What lodge are you? And they exchanged lodge information and whatnot. And he said, well, that because you're a Mason, we hold each other to higher standards, right? And brother said, yes. And he says, so that means that I have to give you this ticket. And that I'm not going to give you a warning. And the brother said, okay, I'll take it. And because it was completely within, it was a very civilized conversation, but it was very much made clear, like, I'm going to hold you to a much higher standard than the average person. And I feel like that's what a lot of people in the conspiracy crowd miss, is that a lot of times, do we say, oh, well, he's a brother, whatever? Sure, that happens, but a lot more often times than not, I feel like if a brother does something wrong, I know this is true for me, and I know this is true for a lot of other brothers. Our reaction to disappointment is much faster and stronger if it's a brother, because we're like, man, you're a Mason. Like, how could you do that?
You should know
Right?
better.
You
Yeah.
should know better. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know you've been taught better.
I know you've been taught that. Exactly. I know you've
Well,
been taught.
and that's one of the things we always talk about when we're introducing new candidates, is that if you're coming here with the expectation that you're gonna have doors opening and that you're gonna get special deals on, like whatever it is you need special deals on, one of the things that, like, I've told any brother that I involve myself in business with is that I am not looking for a deal. I want to pay you your going rate or even more, because I know that you are going to do right as an ethical standard.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trusting you with this, and I don't want a deal. And I don't expect you to offer me a deal because I'm a Mason. I expect to pay you your, whatever it is for your good or service, whatever the rate is. And that's the expectation, and I hold that to myself as well. If I'm, providing a good or service to a brother, I don't expect them to ask me for a deal, because just because I'm a Mason doesn't mean that, like, I'm still not doing a business, and I'm not involved in some sort of business transaction. I still need to make a profit. If I want to offer, or somebody wants to offer, then that's one thing, but like, I'm not going to you to find that.
Well,
Well, that being said, I mean, I am gonna steer business to a brother's business if the opportunity arises. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a jeweler that I use because he's a Mason, I've got a car salesman I use that's a Mason.
Real estate
Realtors, holy cow, we have a lot of realtors in the fraternity. And I'm gonna go to the brothers first, I mean, I've got somebody that I know that's in the industry, and they're gonna treat me right, I just don't expect a deal, and like Evie said, I would pay more to know I'm not getting a raw deal.
They're not
Right,
gonna
it's the
stomp
ethical
on it.
standard behind which that we know that if something goes awry, they're gonna stand up behind their word.
And I want them to succeed in life too.
Exactly.
so it's not a matter of, I'm looking to get something, it's I trust this person because of the fraternity, not that I expect something from this person because of the fraternity. I mean, actually, and it's interesting that you mentioned that expectation, because my own father, right, so I asked, he was surrounded by Freemasons in the military, for 21 years, and he told me when I became a Master Mason, he's like, I thought about joining and I never did it because I didn't like what I saw people doing with it. That he called them ring knockers, and he's like, you would see some guy, he would go in someplace and he's like, hey, I would like, a deal on this, and the person would say, no, the price is what it is, and he had this perception that he just went, then they're like, oh, I see you're a brother, and so, yeah, let's knock 20% off, or, you can have it, and he's like, and I did not like that perception, so I never had an interest in being a Freemason, so. And I mean, you guys have been in the military, I don't know if there is kind of that perception of,
It mostly comes from people who graduated from an academy.
Okay.
My wife is military, and Freemasonry never even came up. One of her first sergeants was a Mason, Prince Hall affiliate. That's as close as we ever got to that.
So let's tackle our next question here. This one's a little bit more of a technical question, but it may have some broader implications. This is one of our questions that we pull off of online. So this comes from the Freemasonry subreddit. Unaffiliated lodge, posted by a username that I can't repeat. I've been given an application to a local lodge. They are their own Grand Lodge, I think. How could this differ from the path of an official lodge? I've been interested in this path for a while, and somebody giving me an application has made me decide to go forward. What do we tell this guy?
Run away, run away,
So-
run away.
Here's the address at the Red Flag Factory, because
Right?
you can't get any more red flags than that. We don't recruit. We don't recruit. We don't recruit. We can't recruit.
Do not recruit.
We're
Not allowed
banned
to.
from recruiting.
Let me put a disclaimer on that. In our jurisdiction.
In our
There are
jurisdiction.
some jurisdictions that are permitted to recruit.
But even if you do recruit, there is no upstanding, like, official branch of Freemasonry and regular Freemasonry. And I mean that to also include, like, organizations that the Grand Lodge of Texas may not recognize, like the French Orient. Like, I totally see what they do, and I've never been to any of their lodges, obviously, because we're forbidden to do that. But I recognize that they are doing a branch of Freemasonry that is doing good. They have good values and things, even though we don't see eye to eye in terms of Masonic issues. That doesn't mean that they're like weird,
But they also have a real system.
Right? It's a systematic way, and the same is true with Prince Hall affiliates. We might not do Freemasonry the same, but we, at least in Texas now, in most other states, and I'm looking at those states right now with a side eye who don't recognize Prince Hall affiliates, we look at them and say, we recognize the brotherhood of what you bring to the table. If you're gonna come to me, and none of those organizations do anything resembling that, they don't call themselves their own Grand Lodge, they don't, and they might, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, they might actually be decent people, but it starts to sound like a multi-level marketing operation.
Well, and there's some
it's
that really
creepy.
do function as multi-level marketing.
Exactly.
Right? But yeah, no, like if your local Grand Lodge is its own Grand Lodge, you're not gonna have a good time in the long run. Like, best case scenario, you end up with a crowd of guys who are all very good dudes who do community service and maybe have some very profound philosophical things that they can contribute to you, but you can never join a regular pendant body. You can never visit other lodges. Nobody in regular masonry will call you a mason, right? And like,
And they're
it's not
automatically
even-
gonna be suspicious of you from the moment you walk in the door.
Exactly.
Even if you wanna leave that world behind, they're gonna come to you, if somebody comes to us from one of those organizations, we're gonna look at them with a very suspicious eye and probably go through a much more intensive, investigative process
I'd
because
say
of
that's
that.
fair, yeah.
So the thing that disturbs me about this is he clearly states in his post, I know they're not a regular Grand Lodge.
Yeah,
And
how,
knowing that,
yeah, like, how could this differ from the path of an official lodge?
yeah,
Like, that's like, dude, like, you kind of know what you're getting into here. What are you doing?
yeah.
You
So I know this is a knockoff, but yet I'm still willing to go forward with it. I mean, and the crazy part about it is a lot of those knockoffs are even more expensive than the regular, you know.
The fact that he even asked that question shows that he knows there's something fishy here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
It's like,
passing
it's like
this
going into
nonsense.
New York and buying like a knockoff of a designer brand handbag.
Hey, I was told my watch is real.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Rolex.
Well, it's made out of real Chinesium.
that is Rolex.
Oh,
A real Rolex.
I'm gonna change the batteries in that thing.
But yeah, the fact that the guy brings up, says, well, how's this different? I mean, he's obviously
Bro.
gonna say, this, so if this person was in my presence and he asked that to me, to my face, I would say, heck yeah, it's like, yeah, pursue with Freemasonry at a different lodge.
I just saw the username. That's
Yeah.
a great one.
It's like,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say it.
I can't repeat the username.
But-
That's the problem.
But, if he's interested in masonry and sometimes just receiving a petition is the catalyst that they need to take that first step, then great, go for it, man. Just find a lodge you're more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because if you're already asking questions, you haven't even filled out the petition yet.
You have a very small circle of Masonic friends at
Yeah,
your
exactly.
local lodge.
Yeah, so I figured this would be kind of a clear-cut question, but I did want to bring that one to the table just so that and this is a question that we frequently revisit, but it's one that's worth having. So, one of our other questions here is, what would you put in an apprentice's kit? And this is posted by Tiki Jack.
Man, that's so relevant to us.
And yeah, so we say, his post says, I binged Lodge 49 this week, and I really loved the scene where Larry Loomis, the Sovereign Protector, gave Dud his old Squire's kit. I don't know what any of that means. He got it in the 60s or 70s or something, back when membership was robust and lodges could afford such things. It was a custom box filled with links stuff like a Zippo lighter, pins, booklets, etc. So I was wondering if cost really wasn't an issue and your lodge gave me an apprentice boxes of stuff, what would you put in it? So what would you guys put in an apprentice go bag or something?
Literature.
Literature. Okay. What kind of literature?
Oh, all sorts of literature.
Well, I do need to point out that the Lodge worked. He's now Captain America. So, you don't get the reference.
I've never watched Lodge 49, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's actually pretty relevant to kind of what we go through.
It's very Oddfellow-y.
It's very Oddfellow-y?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The links.
Okay.
The basis of it is this used to be like a very venerable and respected order, and they've deteriorated to where it's only like a couple of lodges now that are keeping the flame alight, and
Okay.
they really meet as kind of a social function. And in the course of the couple of seasons they had out, this new guy comes in and he's like, hey, I'm convinced there's something more here, there's a reason I'm here. And it gets into, really there was like a background of alchemy and stuff like that. And it's like there's more philosophical teachings there, that nobody else gets because it's just been lost over the years. And, but yeah, they deal with the dwindling membership and,
I think you've sold me on this. I'm going to have to check it out.
It's Wyatt Russell, by the way. Yeah, Kurt Russell's kid.
So back to the
But yeah, so-
EA kit.
What goes in an EA kit?
So-
you said literature.
So for literature, but I would definitely include something for, I know the Grand Lodge of Texas has a publication for the wives of Masons. Tells them a little bit about what we do. Of course, it puts their mind at ease, because like, oh no, were they in there sacrificing goats? Well, can't tell you that part, but,
You can say no. We are
It's
allowed
more
to
fun.
say that no, we don't sacrifice goats.
So
it's more fun just to plead the fifth.
There's
so
no
we are
plurality
goat
to
free
goats.
as well as lizard free.
We are completely goat free.
Yeah, we do not tolerate sources of allergens in the lodge.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of good literature out there about the basic philosophy of Masonry, good information for the wives. That's where I would at least start.
Okay.
But on topic, nothing. They're getting an education. I'm not giving them anything.
Ooh,
when you're
I like
raised,
that answer.
You get gifts when you're raised. Come back, go through the book, go through the
Okay.
degrees.
Okay.
I mean, we'll feed you once a month.
So it's not the answer I was expecting, but I like it. It's
Well,
different.
Entered apprentice. You're an entered apprentice. You're a bearer of burden. Deal with it.
I like it.
All right, fine. He gets the bucket and the mop.
Oh,
Exactly.
See, y'all can tell.
Oh yeah, go back to
that-
the old days.
So, Brandy's not even got a year under his belt as a master mason, but you can tell he's a secretary. That's some of the grouchiest
I will give them
stuff
a
I've ever
temporary
heard in my
dues
life.
He is a past master in training.
Yeah. You know how some
You get
people say
nothing,
that, you were always a Mason, it was just initiation into Masonry that made it official? Brandy was always a secretary.
That's why I nominated him for that position.
We still have our charter, so I guess we're doing it right.
There we go. Well, in addition to the EA literature that we are required to give them by the Grand Lodge law.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I will say actually, my son, when I gave him that, to the candidate and to the EA, and actually he found it incredibly helpful. He's like, oh, there's a lot of cool stuff here that makes me eager to want to continue. So, surprise, surprise. He was actually like, hey, this is cool. This whets my appetite to keep going.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
I can imagine that if we were going to give something to EAs, and even like candidates that are in the investigative process, but probably EAs, I think would probably be the best. I would imagine, I have this like romantic notion of like putting together like a Da Vinci Code-esque kit, where each piece has no relevance on its own until you go through the degree to which it is relevant to.
Ooh,
And
I
so-
like that.
So then it's almost like a puzzle box where you're trying to figure out and then the use becomes available to you after you have the information that it is related to. So after you go through the fellowcraft degree, something that relates specifically to the fellowcraft degree.
Like a tactile
Something-
working tool or something.
The
Yeah,
working
something.
tools.
Symbol.
Yeah.
A
Yeah,
symbol.
well, I mean, you can do, I think the working tools are a little like, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I appreciate them like the next Mason. But I'm talking about like generally like something that's much more mysterious, that you look at this and it's not just like a working tool of the degrees.
Like
It's
like the Ashlar.
yeah, like you see like something in there and you're like how, and then it has a use afterwards that gets tied into some sort of, some part of the Masonic education that comes after each one of those degrees. And I could, like, I'm imagining like this, it would take a lot of work and a lot of thought, and you would have to have a team behind it to generate such a kind of a box, but I think it would be a lot of fun.
It would be really cool if, you mentioned Da Vinci Code, right?
Yeah.
One of the central plot devices in the Da Vinci Code is the cryptex, right? It's, for anyone that doesn't know what a cryptex is, it's like a little tube that has a number of dials on it, and if you have a password, you just dial in the letters in that password. And so we could give, when somebody gets elected to receive the degrees, we could say, hey, here's our letter welcoming you to the fraternity, so on and so forth. And by the way, here's a little cryptex. And then the password could be the entered apprentice's word.
I agree, I think
Because that would be a way
and
to.
then inside is a message to the newly passed or newly raised Master Mason that has something to do with their future, because the cryptex is always something that protects a grade or something.
So here's one of the, for those of you listening at home, I'm sure this is universal across a lot of lodges. The problem with coming up with great ideas is you just volunteered yourself to chair that committee. Thank you, Evve, for your volunteering for that position. We charge you with putting that together. Let us know how this.
Well, the funny
works
thing
out.
is, like, I think, it would, the hard part to me is not even the putting that part together. The hard part is putting it together in a way that makes the entire lodge, make it a cultural touchstone for the entire lodge. And for that, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of education behind the scenes, it takes a lot of getting up in front of, your stated meetings and explaining it to your fellow brethren that this is what we're gonna start doing. This is an investment in time and or money, or both, that we're gonna make the entered apprentice, the fellowcraft, and the Master Mason's degree a richer and more fun experience that has that sort of air of mystery to it.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I think is somewhat missing, besides there is the mystery behind going through the degrees. When you go to an EA degree, and you're especially when you're the candidate, you don't know what to expect. You have no idea what you're getting into. The same is true to some degree with the fellowcraft degree, because you have certain expectations after the EA degree that certain things may or may not happen. And then you get into the Master Mason's degree, and it's just like kaboom, your brain is like you're scraping it off the ceiling, because it's if it's done with the correct posture. But I think that one of the things that's missing is that kind of mystery that like is very, I keep coming back to like that Dan Brown quality of mystery. The Lost Symbol, which by the way, not that I'm plugging it, but it's gonna be a TV show on Paramount Plus.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Lost Symbol is already out.
And which I think is a giant love letter to Freemasonry, but at the same time, there is a certain sense of mystery and a certain sense of puzzle and like solving puzzles, and there are a lot of people that I think that would definitely speak to. I know we're going to be, I'm not trying to segue into that question, but I know we're going to be talking about certain types of lodges in the future, and I think that this would segue really nicely into topics of those, the kind of the quality of the lodge and what it's doing.
So something that I would love to see is more references to operative masonry, right? So Billy and I are going through the grades. We're going through the grades of the operatives right now. It's a invitational body for Royal Arch Masons, and the grades of the operatives are structured around what it might have looked like to actually get initiated into stone masonry, right? And so there's a ton of emphasis on like, hey, these are the real tools, and this is how you're measured as an entered apprentice, and like you're both a apprentice, you're both a mason, but you're also a living stone, right? So like there are working tools there that, like let's talk about the plumb and the level and the square. They have, as part of like the degree paraphernalia, like a gigantic wooden level and a gigantic wooden plumb and a big wooden square, because they're trying to emulate an actual operative quarry. And so And I know this might sound a little goofy and strange, but like I think it'd be really cool for, um, kind of in anticipation of the degree, to send somebody who's been elected to the degrees. We send him, a care package or whatever, and part of the care package includes a mallet and a 2-foot ruler, right? And it's like he has no idea what these are, right? And there's no explanation provided, right? And we just say, hey, welcome, you've been elected to the degrees, here's a mallet and a 2-foot ruler. And,
What's this for?
What?
You'll find out.
And then after he becomes an entered apprentice, it's like, oh, okay, I get it, right? You have this idea of, oh, this was a reference, and I didn't understand it, but now I do. And I think there's a lot of value to that. I also like the idea of giving entered apprentices and fellow crafts something that they can wear that's not as square in compasses, because in the way that I read Texas law for Masonic law is that we don't make a distinction between entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason square and compasses setups as far as symbolism is regulated, legally speaking. So even if they had square and compasses in the EA configuration, it doesn't seem like per our law book it would be legal for them to wear that. So we would have to come up with some other design or something that they could wear. There was a lodge down in San Antonio, can't remember which one. Apologies to Brad Kahanke for me not being able to remember.
If you remember, put your lodge in the comments section.
Get in the comments!
Get in the comments right now.
Davy Crockett Lodge?
Might have been David Crockett Lodge, but they were giving their EAs a pendant that was the world, and on the around the globe, it's in this world, but not of it. It is in God, I am light, right? And that is super cool because they were encouraging their EAs to wear suit and tie to lodge. So basically, what you would do is you would wear your suit and tie, and then like as a collarette or a gorget hanging on top of your tie, just below the knot, you would see that little jewel. So that was like kind of their entered apprentice jewel. And I would love to see something like that be more commonplace. Maybe like a circumpunct or something that you got after your EA degree. That, hey, you can't represent yourself as a Mason in the most visible way, but what about this?
Forgive me not pins.
So,
Yeah, I can wear those.
oh, I'm not crazy about the forget-me-not pins just because there's a lot of
It has some baggage in history.
It's got some baggage, legendarily, So I don't know.
I think you could definitely create, because I know you can have lapel pins made for relatively inexpensive, and you could, pick out of the lecture a symbol or something that you could put on a lapel pin to give to your EA, just to remind them of some things, and that would be, really cost effective. And of course, everyone likes wearing stuff. They like getting free stuff. So hey, congratulations, you've now been initiated. Here's a custom Lodge 148 lapel pin for you to wear as an EA.
Rest assured, as entered apprentices, once you're rich, you'll have plenty of pens.
Yeah,
There's
you're
no shortage of pins.
drowning in bling.
And coins. Oh,
And
we love
coins.
coins.
And rings.
But coins are cool.
So do you guys want to hear some of the answers that were provided in the comments?
Excellent.
Sure.
So this answer was provided by Bongo Zim, and I think Bongo Zim is out of California, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. He said, we give our EAs a real lambskin apron with their name printed under the flap by the Craftsman's Apron, a charcoal and clay shadowed box by Fossil Bluff, the first degree cipher, and the syllabus for our educational program. For Fellowcraft, they get a corn, wine, and oil display, the second degree cipher, and the second degree syllabus. For their Master Mason's degree, they get a personalized Bible, the full cipher for the degrees, a monitor, and a copy of the bylaws. So I do like the idea of the charcoal and clay shadow box. That's super cool. And the corn, wine, and oil display, that's also super cool. We've got a couple people saying 24-inch gauge and common gavel. They say here, small working tool sets, an apron, Intro to Freemasonry by Claudie, a ritual book, a Masonic tie, the Lodge polo. So that's in a jurisdiction where they're allowed to wear stuff that, as non-master masons. And then here's a very adventurous one that was actually posted by the original poster. And I say adventurous because I want to respectfully say to the original poster that this is cool, but it's also not representative of Preston Webb work, and it would be pretty confusing for most American entered apprentices. So I had a great idea last night, a reflection box. When a candidate is initiated, he gets a box that is basically a chamber of reflection in a box. It contains a mirror, vials of salt, sulfur, and mercury. Mercury is dangerous to use, so we can use gallium. A small carved skull made out of a gem.
Yes.
A candle, a small hourglass, a notebook, and a fountain pen. And the inside of the lid is wood burned with vitriol and other alchemical symbols. Perhaps they can receive other things to put in the box in later degrees. Just something they can take with them to meditate on in their Masonic careers. I really like that idea if it was done in a way that was compatible with the work that we do. Because if we're handing an EAs like, oh yeah, here's like salt, sulfur, mercury, and here's a rooster, and here's all this, it's like, hey, what does this mean? Because it's not going to be until like they get to the Scottish Rite that any of that's explained. So it's like,
We'll get a free rooster?
I mean, yeah. Have you not seen like the roosters?
No, I'm thinking like an actual living rooster, like here, hold this.
I like the idea. Be like, all right, as an entered apprentice, it's your job to take care of the lodge rooster until your fellowcraft degree.
Yeah, there's some implications to that I'm just not sure.
But I like the idea of giving them like a big box that's mostly empty that has like slots cut into it, right? And so like as a candidate elected to the degrees, you get the box and like a letter saying, hey, welcome to the fraternity. And then as an EA, maybe you get your vials of chalk, charcoal, and clay, and those go in like little slots in the box, things like that. And so you get things that are in our degree work that are representative of Preston Webb work, but that are also, very good for doing a Texas appropriate chamber of reflection type thing at home or whatever. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun.
Sounds expensive.
It does sound expensive,
Sounds
but that's
labor intensive.
That's
as well.
what degree fees are for.
Well, remember the question was if time and money weren't
Oh,
an issue.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So if we want to get started, let's get started with the next question here. So our next question was posted by a person whose username I don't know because they deleted their account after asking this question. But it's also from the Freemasonry subreddit, and the title is Traditional Observance Lodges, Helpful or Hurtful? Hello, brothers. I attended my first TO Lodge meeting today. My experience with this lodge up till my attendance and the meeting itself had left a lot to be desired. I also can't help but think it's really not, quote, solving anything. Not that it has to, but in my region, there seem to be other obvious priorities. It seems to serve as a point of fracturing the fraternity, like an internal competition to the Blue Lodge system. Is there nothing done in this lodge that can't be done at a regular Blue Lodge? Just curious what others here think. Are TO lodges an evolution, or a sign fracturing, or a sign of fracturing between brothers and lodges? So that's our question here. It's written a little bit antagonistically, but what do you guys think?
So, I guess the first question is, TO lodges, have you been to a TO lodge?
I'm a member of a lodge that is...
That's right.
Well,
Yes.
so actually let me clarify. We are
A best practices lodge?
We are a best practices lodge that engages in observant masonry.
Okay. Have you guys been to a TO lodge to
I
kind of
haven't.
see what the difference is?
I have not, and if I'm being honest, I don't have a desire to.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
I saw T.O. Lodge mentioned, I had no idea what it was, so.
Okay.
Very young Mason here.
Okay.
Okay.
So define it, please.
For our co-hosts and our listeners that are unfamiliar with traditional observance lodges, the idea of a TO lodge or a European concept lodge or an observant lodge, those are all similar, but mostly, they're different but similar. Lodges that are very dedicated to formal Masonry and a very serious Masonic experience. So we're talking about lodges where, yes, there is a dress code, and you're expected to show up in a dark suit or a tuxedo. Yes, like you are going to take a while to get through the degrees, and if you take a year to get through your entered apprentice degree and a year to get through your fellow craft, then that's normal. It is expected that there's education. This is a lodge where you might see that guys go the extra mile and buy real candles, right? For instead of just electric lights. You're not going to see a whole lot of emphasis on reading of the minutes. You're not going to see a whole lot of emphasis on handling the more mundane business of the lodge during normal meetings, right? So like a lot of stuff will be handled outside of the meeting, and then based off of how your jurisdiction handles stuff legally, they'll present a report that's written or whatever and pass it around, and then everyone, the motion is, hey, I move that we accept all the committee reports as distributed, seconded, passed, right? Where your stated meeting is probably going to be quarterly or every other month or something, and you're not going to be doing business. You're going to be initiating somebody or passing somebody or having an educational talk, and there will be festive boards, right? Like agape feasts or festive boards, and there's a real emphasis on we don't do, you're not doing the meal before the meeting, you're doing the meal after the meeting, and there's always going to be some sort of formal dining program, right? So I don't want to make it sound like this is like the only correct way of doing Masonry, but there is an emphasis on bringing back best practices and taking things very seriously.
Yeah, and the ritual may even begin before you even enter the room, that you may
Correct.
enter in a ritualistic form, fashion.
Yeah.
There's incense burning, maybe the use of music.
My lodge uses incense, and we process into the room in an orderly fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a specific order to how people sit down and everything like that.
Or end with the chain of union.
And we end with the chain of union.
Yeah.
So, for those that don't know, the chain of union is something that is, per Texas regulation, we can't do it while the lodge is still open. So after the lodge is closed, everyone gathers around the altar, joins hands, and then, depending on the lodge, a final prayer might be said, or some sort of hymn might be sung. It just depends on what lodge you're in and what they prefer to do.
Sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome, but the poster here raises some valid questions, right? Like, is there nothing done in this lodge that can't be done at a regular Blue Lodge? Are these lodges in evolution, or are they a sign of fracturing between brothers and lodges? What are, I guess kind of what this person's asking is, why do we have TO lodges, and what can we do in a sense that wouldn't require them, Billy, I'm going to let you lead off, since you kind of have a pretty good familiarity or understanding of traditional observance.
Well, I don't think any of it's required, and I don't think there's any aspect of a TO lodge that cannot be done in a regular lodge. Mm-hmm. It's just a different way of doing things, right? More of a purist fashion, I guess, and at least what they view as being purist, trying to focus more on the masonry and less on the mundane. Mm-hmm. So TO lodges, when it comes down to it, the term TO usually signifies that they're a member of,
The Masonic Restoration Foundation.
that's right, the MRF, yeah. And so that's a very specific group that they all, they have kind of a set of practices that they engage in. But any lodge can say, you know what, I kind of like that, let's start doing it in our lodge. There's no reason why, Fort Worth 148, every once in a while, we use incense. There's no reason we can't do that.
Yep.
There's no reason we can't use real candles. There's no reason we can't use the procession going into the lodge if we so chose, because there's a lodge in Dallas that does that, and they're not a TO lodge, but they still use that process. I mean, you can do, when it comes down to it, anything that you think improves masonry for your lodge, you can do. I don't think it's a sign of fracturing as much as it's just a different way of doing things. I don't see it neither good nor bad. It's, and when you visit different lodges, every lodge does things in a slightly different fashion.
Yeah.
This is just, they do a larger set of things in a different fashion than most other lodges do.
Yeah. And they've kind of put down in writing that they want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds to me like the person who posted this question is a bit disenfranchised. It sounds like they don't really care for that method of masonry. So that person might benefit from attending a different lodge, joining a different lodge. I mean, because as Billy mentioned, every lodge is slightly different. Every lodge is a representation usually of the local culture. And every lodge has its own entity and its own kind of a culture. So if what doesn't work for you in one lodge, you might be really happy with the lodge down the street.
Well, the other direction, if you really, really want that and your lodge doesn't have it, couldn't you get a lot of that in an independent body?
That's a valid question.
Some of it is found in an independent body.
Yeah, I would say that there are things that guys that are there are things that guys look for that they find in TO lodges that are found in independent bodies, but not all of those things are found in independent bodies. So if that makes sense.
One of the things that and this is just my view, this is the uneducated, profane view of this, but one of the reasons that I really have never found TO lodges to be of particular appeal to me is because I think that they evolve out of, or have developed out of, a dissatisfaction of the craft as it is practiced. That there is a feeling among the brethren that the value of Freemasonry has become reading minutes and going through committee reports and those mundane things that we talk about, that I firmly think should be if it takes more than 3 minutes to read the minutes or to go over the minutes, that is entirely too much. I think minutes are a giant waste of time, except in specific instances where there's like a discussion has been carried over and we need to revisit it so that we can continue it. That's the only value that minutes have in my view. Knowing that the lodge was opened in due and ancient form at a certain time has zero, in fact it has negative value in my view. In fact, I could not emphasize how little value, and I feel dumber for having listened to it when it gets read in a lodge.
In a century, though, someone's going to want to possibly look at that.
No, and that's why we
totally
record
agree.
it. That's why we record it, not reread it. We don't need to reread what we lived through a month ago. If your memory is that short for 30 days, then let us do something else to facilitate your entry
I'll
into
read
this.
faster.
It's not even about that really.
Well, and so-
I think that there's just so much of that there's been so much of a focus on that and so much of a cultural shift to those sorts of things to make Freemasonry, first of all, easy to get through. We've done everything in our fraternity to make it easy to become a Mason, to make it cheap to become a Mason, to reduce every obstacle to being a Mason, to make their memory work as memory light as possible. Like everything has been done because the people in power think that the big reason that we've seen dwindling membership is those things. Like the memory work is a problem, and the time commitments are the problem, and the esotericy is the problem, and all of those things. And I think that what we have discovered, especially as the millennial generation is becoming part of our lodges, especially as the Generation Z is becoming a part of our lodges, is that there is a recognition that all that stuff was a bad idea. That making it easy was not a good idea. That making it simple and cheap and esoteric light and meaningless essentially has left a shell of Freemasonry. And so now I think TO lodges are the pendulum swinging radically the other direction. And I think that the answer isn't in TO lodges, and I don't think TO lodges are an evolution of Freemasonry. It's a version of Freemasonry that I think is very valid in response to the meaningless husk that some lodges have become.
Yeah.
What is important is that lodges find things that make the experience meaningful and valuable to their members. And in value, I don't mean a monetary value, I mean a value whether that comes from their connection to the fraternity aspect, to the philanthropic aspect, to the ritual aspect, or some other aspect that your lodge brings to the table. It's the meaningfulness and the mindfulness of Masonry that has been stripped away when you focus on minutes and committee reports.
Oh, yeah.
When you get back to the meaningfulness and the mindfulness that is at the center of Freemasonry and the education, you have everything that somebody gets from a TO lodge without the stuffiness and without the tuxedos. Because I will tell you right now, I will not go to a lodge that requires a tuxedo. Period.
Yeah.
That is without discussion. I will not be a member of a lodge that requires a tuxedo. I think it's pretentious, and I think it's the opposite of what Freemasonry is. Now, I know I'm saying some
Fortunately,
controversial
you're
yet
good.
brave things here.
Controversial.
I am controversial yet brave.
Fortunately, we just require a dark suit.
And those are all, and that is not me shading those people or those organizations. My point is that I don't think we need tuxedos to make Freemasonry valuable. What is important is making Freemasonry valuable, and you can do that in jeans and a polo,
Yeah.
or you can do it in jeans, a button-up, and a pair of cowboy boots,
Faded hard
or
shirt.
you can do it in a dark suit, and you can do it in tuxedos.
Yeah.
You can do, but you can have just as vapid experiences in a TO lodge as you can in a husk of a blue lodge.
Right.
It's not the way you do it, it's the meaningfulness and the mindfulness that you bring to the
I
table.
like it.
Well,
Well, and,
No,
sorry,
I mean,
but
you're-
And that was my soapbox.
I was gonna say.
Thank you for attending
like,
my TED Talk.
Well, no, I mean, I think that was a fantastic rant. Like that hit a lot of really good points. But I think one of the things too, right, is it's not about wearing. And to your point, right? It's not about requiring the wearing of the tuxedo, which a lot of places might, or requiring the wearing of a dark suit. But if a lot of lodges recognized that the goal of requiring a dark suit or requiring a tuxedo is to instill a certain mindset, and they said, hey, listen, as long as we achieve that mindset, we can require just that you wear pants, closed-toed shoes, and a collared shirt of some kind, right? And as long as that mindset is achieved, right? And so I think that you hit something, you kind of hit that nail on the head, is where's the attitude coming from?
Right, and to kind of backpack on what Eddie said, you've got two extremes. You've got the super fussy, extreme hardcore, this is how we're doing things, and then you've got the extreme lax lodge, and I think the correct answer is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
However though, if someone is extremely happy with TO lodges and that's what they love to do, then by all means, go get your masonry that way, because that's what your lodge should do. You should provide what the members want and what they are after.
Yeah.
So personally, I'm more in the middle type person.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it also speaks to the differences in religious observances. There are people that really appreciate a high church experience with the incense and the braziers and the psalms being sung instead of recited, and the robes and the cloaks and all that stuff, and the candles. I get it. I love that high church experience. I think that there's a place for it.
Yeah, right?
And I also think that there is a great place for the come as you are experience, the place where you see cargo shorts and flip-flops and t-shirts in your worship experience. You don't have to dress up to have a meaningful experience, is the point. And both of those are very valid expressions, and there are gonna be people that have a more comfortable experience in one versus the other. But I think that one thing that everybody has in common is the mindset going into that sanctuary experience, that it is a sanctum of meaningfulness and mindfulness. And that everybody, well, at least most of the people that go into that get some sort of connection to a greater experience. And if you're not getting that greater experience from your lodge experience, then I'm gonna ask why. And if it's because it's 30 minutes of minute reading, and then followed by 45 minutes worth of committee reports, followed by 25 minutes of new business where there is a debate over a budget, that is not a meaningful experience.
You just invented the worst lodge meeting I've ever heard of in my
And,
life.
but
got
how
let
many,
into that
but
meeting.
how many people have been to that meeting
Yeah.
and are like,
I'm like
holy
actively
Mary,
having nightmares.
it's a horrible experience, and that same experience can happen whether you're in a TO lodge and you're doing all those extra things, or if you're in a blue lodge in rural West Texas where there's like barely enough people to open up, an EA lodge.
Yeah.
It can happen in both places, or you can have the most profound experience of Freemasonry in either one of those. So it's not, I think, about what you're wearing or what's being burned or what's going on. It's about what the people bring to the table.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to interject, because what Evie just described, the horrible lodge meeting, reminds me of a gentleman that, member of our MWSA, the Master of Wardens and Secretaries Association. He's got a hard stop at 1 hour. At 1 hour after the meeting has started, he gets up and walks out.
I know exactly who you're talking
And
about.
I love him, and I told him a couple weeks ago that I'm gonna grow up and be as cool as him.
Is it really an hour? Cause it seems way less than that.
He
I-
said, the
no,
meeting starts
I
at
know-
7, at 8:01, he is already out that door.
I know
And
exactly
I love
what
him and
he's
I
talking
respect it, I'm like, dude, that's awesome, I can't wait till I can do that, cause by golly, I will, because Evie's right. The meeting should not, we don't need someone to sit there and read the calendar of events for everything that's going on when we all have access to the calendar.
Yeah.
It's a published thing.
Yeah.
So.
We have technologically challenged brethren though.
We have the
that
technology.
only get that in lodge.
And that's fine, they can stay there, I will walk out the door with this brother at 8:01.
I have actually.
Or even better, I will print out a Google Calendar with all the events on it in large font so you can read it.
So
I mean,
I have
that's
actually,
not to-
I have actually checked out of a lodge meeting with that brother. So I know exactly.
And I,
what
I
you're
look forward to
I
it.
love those things. I like, those are the things that make lodges grow and better, because there's a reason that there are lodges that have a dwindling number of people, and that there are lodges, there's a reason why lodges are flourishing right now. So there are a lot of lodges out there that are growing by leaps and bounds.
Yep.
And it's because they've embraced a meaningful experience, I think, versus a vapid husk of a Masonic experience.
Oh.
Those that are having meaningful experiences, whether they're TO lodges or whether they're just blue lodges that are jeans and a polo, growth is gonna happen because meaningfulness, and when it's not because we make it easy. I think that we need to make catechism more difficult. I think that we need to bring more study to the table. I think we need to bring more education to the table. We need to have people that are coming in, because they're not looking for an easy Masonic experience when they come to us. They're looking for a meaningful Masonic experience. And the meaningfulness is all about what we learn. So.
well, in defense of the dress code, by the way,
And I get off on I know I rant on the dress code.
No.
It's not, my rant is not about the dress code.
It's
Well,
about everything attached.
It's about
to it.
everything that's attached to it that could be just as bad.
Yeah.
right, well, I feel that your dress code should always be representative of your constituency, right? It should be what the members choose. But I will say that, the tuxedo aspect, I always thought, well, it's kind of an elitist way to do it. And don't get me wrong, I love wearing a tuxedo as often as possible. But I never really thought of it in any other context until I visited a lodge in Manhattan, New York. And I was told by the secretary when I contacted them to visit the lodge, they're like, the expectation is tuxedo and gloves. And they're like, and it's not an elitist thing, but it really is to make sure that everybody is truly on the level. Because you can have an investment banker sitting next to an auto mechanic and they're dressed exactly the same. They have gloves on, so you can't see which one has rough hands and which one has smooth hands. And so it really does make it to where You do not look at the person.
I know of a lodge, not the one that I'm a member of, but I know of a lodge that if a member joins and he cannot afford to buy a tuxedo, they will buy one for him precisely for that purpose.
Yeah, and when I went to visit them, they actually had a brother who was traveling, and he was traveling for work. He just had work clothes, and he showed up. And the master made a point to say, I specifically told this brother that he could wear what he had because it was more important that he sit in and visit in lodge with us and on how his appearance is. You know, so it's like, you know, even though we expect tuxedo, that doesn't mean we're going to turn away someone just because they don't happen to have a tuxedo with them.
And there, in some countries, there's actually an expectation, right? So, you know, the expectation is in European countries and a lot of Latin America, it's expected that you show up wearing tuxedo, right? Like straight up, that's the minimum, right? And if a brother shows up and he doesn't have the clothing that he needs, they actually have, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it's actually like a uniform that you wear. And the closest thing that I can describe it to being is like a black choir robe or a black judge's robe. And instead of wearing a suit and tie or a tuxedo, you wear that instead. And so it's very, everyone is dressed in some form or fashion very equally. So,
And mind you, just to make this clear to everybody who's listening and to everybody in the room, my beef is not about the dress code. It has more to do with the response that it has. But if we were to embrace more of that sort of environment where everybody, in addition to wearing our aprons, were to wear a cloak or a judge's robe or something like that, I'm not opposed to it. In fact, I would be totally on board with wearing like cloaks and making it like truly like that would be stinking cool.
So, brother secretary.
all right. So we have a new budget item. But yeah, no, and so before we move on to the next question, I wanted to say that, like, as a member, I'm a member of 3 lodges, Billy's a member of a bazillion, you know.
Only 5.
Only 5,
In
right?
the state.
But, like, so I belong to, obviously, like, I'm sitting master of Fort Worth Lodge, and we have a very, flexible culture that, one of the things that Fort Worth Lodge prides itself on is we work with what we've got and we do whatever we need to get to the next level. And so, our business code is basically business casual, right? And we encourage guys to dress up if they want to, right? But we're never going to turn anybody away, right? And then I belong to another lodge, Ocean Lodge, that is, kind of suit and tie, not necessarily dark suit and tie, but suit and tie, and it's a festive board lodge, and that's the only item of business. We really just do festive boards. It's not an observant lodge. And then I belong to Mercury Lodge, which is an observant lodge. All right, and all of those 3 lodges provide very different experiences, and all of them are very fulfilling in their own way. So, obviously we've laid down some, some criticism of certain aspects here of both observant lodges and non-observant lodges, but I guess the takeaway should be find what makes you happy as a Mason and do that. As a kind of our last question for the episode, I wanted to ask this one. This was posted by PartyZAN18. And the question is, as an entered apprentice, how can I better provide service to my brethren? My proposer is an extended family member, and I was initiated 4 months ago. During my petition period, I became quite close with my seconder and the worshipful master, now immediate past master, as we are all of a similar age and shared interest. As an entered apprentice, one of my duties is to man drinks at the festive board, but due to COVID, we have only had 1 open lodge since my initiation. However, I'd like to do more for the craft, and I was wondering, what can I do to work towards becoming a better Mason in the eyes of my fellow brethren? In your experience, what sort of conduct stood out as exemplary? Go!
Well, as I think about the entered apprentices that we've had, because obviously COVID has kind of universally affected all of us in some way, shape, or form. I look back over those entered apprentices that were caught and sucked into COVID and that were affected by it, and either their progression was delayed, or there were people that weren't even allowed to be initiated because they fell into that time frame whenever we weren't actually meeting. And I think that the big value was those entered apprentices who acted as social or just some sort of contact and kept in contact with other brothers, with themselves, and made it clear that just because that COVID was going on, that they hadn't lost interest, that they were still looking for education, looking for opportunities to learn more about the craft and read more, and asking for recommendations about, like, what can I read, what podcasts can I be listening to, what YouTube channels can I be subscribing to deepen my understanding of the craft, so that when we do get together, I am the best equipped EA to move forward in the craft and advance. I don't think that it's more, the best thing that I can recommend that an EA bring to the table is their passion. And when they bring their passion, that's more, we want that more than fees or initiation fees or labor or anything like that. We want you to be present and passionate.
I like it, and I agree with you. What has stood out to me the most, and not just with the EAs, but I mean, EAs are welcome. Volunteer for stuff, get involved. If there's a committee, heck, start attending investigation committees. Tag along. Obviously, you can't, at least in our jurisdiction, an EA can't do the investigation, but they can tag along. And it's always good in any interview process to have a second set of ears, because everyone's going to hear different responses. They're going to hear the same response differently. They're going to interpret them different, and that may prompt a different question, so that way we can vet valid candidates to make sure we're guarding our West Gate properly. But yeah, volunteer, as Evie said, educate yourself, read, and offer to pitch in with labor. After the meal, help take out the trash, things like that. That's always stood out, and I love the fact that our EAs they kept in contact with other EAs. We had 6 of them come through all at once that one time.
Yeah. Well, actually, Brandy was part of that group.
Yeah, Brandy was part of that group.
Definitely. And we worked together on our proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do the Monday night table thing, and if they open Master's Lodge, we just go upstairs and we do round robin style and work on it. And I wouldn't have progressed without it.
I think that was one of the coolest and most valuable things that I saw about y'all's group of EAs, was that y'all were very tight knit, and you guys held each other accountable for, hey, listen, man, I know that we're working towards this proficiency, and I know that maybe you need to work a little bit harder on this, or where have you been lately, right? And so there was this whole thing of, well, you all knew each other, and if you didn't know each other before, you got to know each other, and then you all held each other accountable, and you guys met with mentors, and you guys were very independent and organized, which a lot of times it's the responsibility of the lodge to say, hey, we have to make sure that we take care of our entered apprentices, because these guys are brand new to masonry, and they may not know what they're doing. But y'all didn't have that problem, because as a group, y'all got together, and if you needed to find somebody to teach you the work, y'all grabbed somebody, and y'all made sure that you were, holding each other accountable on that.
Funny thing about that, my concern with that tight-knit group, though, is politically taking over the lodge at some point. I don't know how you...
let me put it this way.
We're all very close to Brother Jeremy. He brought almost all of us in.
Well, and so my response to that would be, if the old guard cannot integrate new guys well enough to prevent a political takeover of lodge, the old guard does not deserve to keep the lodge. But that's a bit of an edgy sort of answer.
Well, no, there's a point in every group where the new guard becomes the old guard.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
exactly
you guys
how
are
it
going to be the
happens.
old dude someday.
I'm older than you.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing is, as the secretary, you're now the crotchety old guy that
I
no
do as
one,
well.
that no
Only
one
spir-
would know you've
Yeah.
only been a master mason
Only
for about a year.
spiritually though.
So on that for an UEA, I would say probably engagement is the biggest problem we have for everybody, whether it's an EA, a fellow crafter, or a master mason, and even officers. I mean,
Just be there.
yeah, unfortunately, you see it every year. The appointed officers, you know, it's always it's usually guys who are very active, and you give them a collar, and it's like, where'd you go? You just disappeared.
Bye!
Yeah.
Well, as a EA, I never even saw an EA degree in life because obviously we can't see when we're in it. I performed in the next one. We have one very basic part. I'm not going to talk about it, but it's just a couple of lines. I worked in it. The next one, I sat in the South as an apprentice. We can do that in Texas. If you can do that in your lodge, by all means, learn a role.
I think an important part too for a new EA is to try and emulate what you learn in Freemasonry. The most interesting comment I've heard about Freemasonry is Freemasonry really teaches you to be a better citizen. Whereas your church teaches you to be a better, perfect your soul as opposed to perfect your citizenship. And so, as a Freemason, I would hope that in your public dealings, that you would be a little bit more generous, a little bit more upstanding, a little bit more understanding, that you would really internalize those teachings that are in Freemasonry and exemplify it before others. And it sounds kind of weird, but maybe it's something as small as, not driving like a jerk in traffic,
Yeah.
or maybe just being a little bit more gracious when things don't go your way, not being the Karen at the restaurant, and saying, hey, I get it, don't worry about it, let things pass that aren't important, let the small things remain small, and maybe just kind of being cognizant of that you're representing a larger brotherhood and showing what that means to other people, I think will do more for the craft than anything else you can do. Because unfortunately, especially right now, we need those people that are, the fine, upstanding citizens. As we become more divisive as a country, I think we need people who act like brothers that are visible to kind of counterbalance this weird divisiveness we have everywhere right now.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that I think that Freemasonry has done or does really, really well is it puts a lot of people from a lot of different ways of life into one room, into one organization, and says, whether you like this person's political views or not, whether you like this person's views on subject X, Y, or Z, they're your brother. You're not going to in anger strike them. You are not going to disparage them either to their face or behind their back to someone. You are going to respect them. You are going to treat them with respect. And if you are going to disagree, you're going to disagree with respect. And you are going to whisper good counsel when you think someone is misbehaving. You're not going to call them out on Facebook or on Instagram or on social media. Although we do see some of that still making its way around from time to time between Masons. The vast majority of us get along really, really well. And I know from personally that there are people that I have become very close with that had it not been for Masonry, our circles of influence and connection would have never overlapped because we just come from 2 or 3 completely different walks of life.
Tagging on to that, let's go around the table really quick. When you joined Freemasonry, so not right now, but when you joined Freemasonry, what were you doing for work, and did you know anybody sitting at this table? I was a reservoir engineer for a oil and gas company. I did not know anybody at this table.
I was doing customer service at a bank, and I did not know anyone at this table.
I was working at Taco Bell. Again, you got to remember that I joined in '96, so I was a fresh young lad of 21. So I was working at Taco Bell. It was in a completely different state. I had no idea that.
And what about Fort Worth Lodge, when you joined Fort Worth Lodge?
Fort Worth Lodge, I was in management with IT, actually, and I didn't know anybody here. I just showed up one day and said, hey, I'm interested in, because I was inactive for several, for quite a number of years. I'm like, I'm interested in becoming active again. And I actually showed up to visit a different lodge. And you guys happened to be doing dinner, and I went up and just clicked with everyone and decided this is the lodge, I'm interested in joining.
I moved to Fort Worth for a job. I'm in the beauty industry, and I did not know anybody in this lodge. In fact, it was the first lodge that I found in a Google search that was close to me. And when I walked in, I knew that it was the place for me because someone asked my name, got to know me, and not in that let me see your dues card kind of ask your name, but like got to know me. And then on my second visit, remembered my name. And that I knew that right away that this was going to be the lodge that I was going to be at. I didn't know anybody here. In fact, I don't think that I think Gabe, you were the senior deacon the year that I got.
That's correct.
That I became affiliated with this lodge.
We've known each other for
My entire basic
4 years.
Yeah, I think I'd been a Mason for about a year whenever I joined Fort Worth Lodge.
I work in auto salvage. I knew Jeremy. He was at my wedding. We hang out together. So I'm the exception to the rule here, apparently.
Yeah, but that's also because you joined way after Jeremy became a Mason. So,
And weirdly enough, my brother was a Mason, entered apprentice. He didn't progress, but that's the only connection I had, and I never really thought about it. Just kind of inapproachable.
Yeah, as far as
kinda-
blowing open your social circles, I was telling Brandy just the other day, it's like one of the fun things I love about masonry. I have sat down and had drinks with people that I otherwise would have never, ever.
Last
And
weekend.
isn't that's the craziest thing, right? Like, none of us would have really met each other, right? Like, Brandy, you knew Jeremy, right? But and I think this goes for a lot of guys in our lodge. Most of us would never have met each other if it hadn't been for masonry.
There would have been no reason for
specifically Fort Worth Lodge, because some of us were Masons prior to becoming members of Fort Worth Lodge.
Well, and they're just like you were mentioning, like our social circles. Most of them don't, in a Venn diagram, don't have any overlap.
Zero.
Like like in the beauty industry, it's a pretty restrictive like bubble of people and things that I interact with. I would not have any reason to interact with somebody in the oil and gas industry, or in the automotive industries, or in the Grand Lodge industry now that you're in. If you can call it an industry.
Had drinks with doctors and lawyers, and I'm like, man, these guys are. I am way out of my socioeconomic class here.
And to me, like, I work in the architecture industry now, which is really different from oil and gas. But three of my coworkers are Masons, right? And it's the weirdest thing to me, because before I would have gone, wow, I never would have expected to find anybody here. But now I know, like, two of the guys that sit closest to me are past masters of Arlington Heights. And it's just the weirdest thing to know Masons at work. And so the crossover's finally starting to happen to me before, though.
I had surgery 15, 20 years ago, and I had dinner with the surgeon through Freemasonry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dr. Stella, you won't remember me, but...
Wait, he's the one that did surgery?
Yeah, he's maxillofacial surgeon. So.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have a funny story to tell you about Knights Templar afterwards.
And then you run into brothers all over the place as well. I mean, I was sharing with you guys earlier, I'm in seminary, for those of you who don't know. I ran into a guy who saw my ring and was like, hey, I'm a Freemason too. He's an international Mason. He is coming to school from Costa Rica, but I would have never run into him had it not been for Freemasonry. And it's this really weird thing.
For our listeners, to clarify, this person is a member of the regular Grand Lodge of Costa Rica. He is not a modern and international Mason, which is a clandestine group.
Right.
Right. What I mean is he is an international student at the school I'm going to.
I just wanted to clarify.
And he is from Costa Rica. He is serving a church there and coming to the U.S. for further education.
Actually,
he might know one of my family members.
That is an interesting distinction, because earlier we did talk about clandestine masonry, and international Freemasons are a clandestine group.
Yeah.
You can always tell them because they have the square and compass with the key under it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Well, so part of what I'm getting at here with did we know each other before and what industry are we coming with? I think one of the best things that an entered apprentice can do as service to their lodge, one, get your catechism down, establish a good relationship with your mentor, learn it, just learn it, right? And then two, get to know the guys in your lodge, right? Like, and now what Jeremy said and what Billy said and what Evie has said and what Brandy has said is all super valuable, right? Especially helping take out the trash, right? Like, that's a huge thing because after a lodge meeting dinner, you're gonna have having served as junior warden, I would say 3 to 5 bags of trash at least, right? But the number one thing you can do, get to know the dudes in your lodge. And don't just be members of the same lodge, become friends. So, but we are hitting our wrapping up point. We actually hit it a while ago. So we'll just do our usual sign out. So folks, if you want to learn more about the podcast or Fort Worth Lodge, you can find us at fortworthlodge.com or fortworth148.org. You can email us at info148@fortworth148.org. And we are planning Texas Masonicon 2022. It's going to be great. You can find more information at texasmasonicon.com.
Actually, and speaking of Texas Masonicon, we're going through the process right now of confirming speakers. Yes, we confirm a year in advance, which is why we didn't try to rush something together for 21 as much as we really wanted to. But yes, we are confirming speakers right now. We have several that have confirmed.
Yes.
And some of them are pretty exciting.
Some of them are very exciting. We also wanted to give a shout out for the March 5th, am I correct?
Alamo 44, 175th anniversary.
So,
Brad
yep.
Russell, Brad Billings, Deputy Grand Master, wants to have 1,000 Masons march from there to the Alamo, which is also the anniversary of the fall Alamo, 186th. So be in San Antonio, March 5th, 2022.
Yeah, March 5th, put it on your calendar. So we'll begin our sign out.
This is Billy Hamilton signing off.
This is Evve Kuykendall signing off.
Jeremy Gwinn signing out.
Brandy Patton, sign up.
And this is Gabriel Jagush.